This is a group of women who have made the conscious decision to live outside of the United States. I was teaching dance professionally and working as a professional dancer for 20 years. Even just here on vacation, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I had all this training around choosing a more aligned life. And yet I was like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 o'clock, yeah, let's go back. Like, fuck off. Like, I can't anymore.
When I was 23, I came to Italy. I stood and looked in Florence in Ponte Vecchio. I watched the sunset and I said, I am going to live here one day. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? This is it. I found a school and I signed up for a year-long language school, Italian. I got a visa and left the country.
We got engaged in the Caribbean, and he'd say, oh, maybe we could buy a place here, there. This is pie in the sky kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We went on our honeymoon and we went to Nevis. We had a great week, and we get home and Terry says, well, maybe we could buy a house in Nevis. I don't know how this is going to work. Like, we spent a week at the Four Seasons. Like, this is not real life. This is like Disney Caribbean, like it's fake. It's fake everything. I mean, it was lovely, but I said, this is just not real life. Like, how can we make a decision? But at the end of the day, I think sometimes you just have to go with your gut and your intuition.
Welcome to Drinks with the Girls, conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls. Listeners, this is an unprecedented episode because we are bringing you a group panel. Woo! And also, the topic is something that we fantasize about. I mean, I don't know about you, but I fantasize about. So I'll just leave it at that for the moment.
3 hot women. What is there not to fantasize about?
5 hot women, yo. What you talking about?
Okay, fine.
I am drinking my beloved hot coffee in my personalized mug that my daughter made almost 20 years ago. And I'm caffeinated and hydrated with my water.
Very nice.
Lisa, what you got?
I am double fisting an Arbonne Clean Tox tea. And then to balance out everything, I am drinking coffee with oat milk and I think my husband put a zhuzh of caramel in there. Miss Karen, what are you drinking? And introduce yourself for the folks.
Hey, I'm Karen. Another Karen. I'm Karen Basket. And I'm drinking, can you see my little toucan?
Oh, cute.
How cute, right? I made some CCF tea this morning, which is cumin seed, coriander seed, and fennel seed. Super good for hot flashes, P.S. But you just put those 3 seeds, not really talking to anybody in particular there. You just put the seeds. I just slap them in some water and boil them up and then strain them and drain them. And you keep it warm and it helps balance your gut. And I've been drinking it for the last 7 days. I'm in Belize. I am an Ayurvedic practitioner and I am a menopause specialist. So I help specifically guide women, although I can help anyone who comes to me and asks. But I specialize in helping women in midlife navigate menopause with Ayurveda. So it's a natural system of medicine from India. And I had never heard of it when I was going through menopause and ended up getting a master's degree in it. And then after COVID and some other big life things, I just decided I had been here to Placencia, Belize before. I'd done a couple retreats here small ones, and just fell in love with it. And when I was kind of thinking in my head, where in the world would I actually want to move to? And this was September of last year, 2024. And Placencia, I had been here, and I was like, I have a community there. I have some friends there. They speak English here. And so I just sold all the things. And now I'm opening a wellness studio here in Placencia. It offers retreat services, and I'm getting so I have a yoga certification as well. And I also am getting a sound healer certification so that I can find what organ system is out of balance in the pulse, and then use specific sound and healing mechanisms, as well as yoga and Ayurveda and all these ways to help us build healing around things that we don't really talk about so much, And it's weird down here, especially because, I shouldn't say weird, but unique, because women hold a different place in the culture. Right? This is a very male-dominated culture in Central America. It's very machismo. Women are very subservient. Men have lots of women at their beck and call. So for a woman to step into a wellness space and then also try to cultivate healing in a way that is new and different to them is exciting and scary, and I highly recommend it.
And hot tip, Karen did an episode with us few months back on her work.
June, July.
So please, that will be in the show notes. Check that out because it was a great one. All right.
Yes.
This is Brady Bunch time. So moving to my top right, I guess we'll go. Shannon, lay it on us. Who are you? What are you drinking?
Okay.
Tell us about yourself. And where are you?
I'm in Italy, so it's 6:30 p.m. here. So thanks to Karen, I do not drink coffee past noon anymore. And I only have 1 cup a day. So I'm down from 6 shots of espresso and pocket coffees.
What is a pocket coffee?
Okay, so these are amazing during the off season. So in summer, they sell it differently. But usually it's a pack of, well, I get the like 12 pack, but it is a piece of chocolate with a shot of espresso inside. I mean, come on.
Oh my God.
So
what's not to love?
And then so as we'll go on, I'm also in recovery. So I don't have an off switch. And so if I get the little pack where there's 6, I'll just eat all 6 in one day on top of like my espresso. Yeah. So buzzing around, hot flashes. So I don't do that anymore. So there's 3 cups of water in here. So this is my 3rd one for the day. I'll probably have another 2 of water. So that's what I'm drinking.
Dang. And what do you do?
Let me tell you about the summer. So in the summer, they don't sell the regular pieces of chocolate. They're little cups with a little mini straw. And you poke the little thing, and there's like chocolate and espresso, and you suck it up in this little like straw. It's very dumb looking, but it's delicious.
Only Italy. I
Yeah,
love
right?
it.
Okay. So I am Shannon Whaley. I'm an anti-hustle business coach. I am a former coach trainer. I'm a mentor coach. I have my PCC credential with the International Coaching Federation. So what I do with my work with my clients, I focus predominantly on storytelling and teaching my clients how to use their lives and their stories and their experiences to build their business online, attract their people, and build out their programs and their offers, and teach them how to start, grow, and then scale their businesses. And I teach them how to focus on the things they need to be focusing for where they are in their business, because the industry is very much about putting the cart before the horse and have your website and have your branding, but then you don't have your program built out. So I teach my clients how to sequentially build and grow without the hustle and the burnout. So
I was just going to give you a little plug that I literally would not have a business if it was not for Shannon Whaley. If anybody out there needs a business coach, I highly recommend you get on a call with her and see if she's a fit, because she's amazing.
Thank you. I left the country in 2013, the US, and moved to the Cayman Islands, and I was there for 4 years. And then in 2017, I moved to Italy. And so that's where I am now.
Oh, I'm so jealous on so many levels. All right. And then to round out our trifecta of awesomeness, my friend Megan Elkins, we went to Smith together, and everybody knows I love my alma mater. So, Megan, tell us what you're drinking and just a little bit about you. And I know you're not calling from overseas, but talk to us about your whole deal here.
Sure. So I am drinking water because as we were talking in the hot flash zone, I try to have my water with me at all times. And I'm also down to 1 cup of coffee a day. And since it's noon, 12:30 here on the East Coast of the US, I'm done on coffee for the day. So that's it. No more caffeine for the day. I am in New York right now. I am sort of an accidental expat and sort of a half year for the time being, half year working on full-time expat. And our other home is on Nevis, the island of Nevis, which is in the Caribbean. And what I do for work is I work in online learning. Specifically, it's professional development for K-12 teachers in the U.S. So I've been doing this for about 7 years, and it's great because I was remote before there was remote. And when we had this opportunity to buy our house and to move down there, I really wouldn't be able to do it, I don't think, if I didn't have this job. Because prior to this, I was in financial services, which is like, that's not really something you can sort of pick up and relocate with easily. So I'm glad to be sort of doing this education thing for the online learning thing for the time being.
So you guys have talked a little bit about your stories and how you got, where you are. But this specifically, I love that this is a group of women who have made the conscious decision to live outside of the United States. And so just dive in a little bit more to your story about how you got to that place where you were thinking about that and you started realizing, wow, this is really a viable option for me, and kind of how you got where you are. Karen, you want to go first?
Sure. Prior to COVID, let's say, I was teaching dance professionally and working as a professional dancer for 20 years. And so I could sleep better because I was detached from what we call down here the matrix, right? The matrix of the United States, the matrix of living there. It's very, very real. And it takes a long time to shed it as well. To not move. It's one of the things I would work on with Shannon, honestly, is like not moving at the pace of an American when you're now a Belizean, when you're living another complete, I feel more connected to natural rhythms here, more connected to herbs and fresh foods, more connected to the ocean and the sunrises and the sun. Like I came from Seattle, so we have shit for sun there, right? So being here, like even just here on vacation, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And then I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And then it came time for me the woman who I was working for at the dance studio to ask me if I was time to renew my contract to teach another full season and to be a program director and work with all these pre-professional kids at this high level. And my body inside. And that's when I met with Shannon. She happened to be in Seattle. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I got to say no. She's like, you do. You got to say no. You got to move to Belize. Let me help you. Like it was like this amazing moment because I was like, oh my God, it's possible. I know I have support. I know I have examples around me. And my body, I had a bone spur surgery, removed a bone spur on my foot. I had psoriasis all over my body, elbows, legs, knees, face, like psoriasis was everywhere. I had asthma really bad. So my body was literally, this was before the election even. So it was my body that was screaming at me more so than the political state at the time. It was really do or die. Like you will die if you continue at this pace, no doubt. And then I also had this degree in Ayurveda, right? Where like the whole thing is, natural rhythms, learning how to eat at the proper time for your body type and when to exercise and what teas to favor, what spices to avoid. Like I had all this training around choosing a more aligned life. And yet I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 o'clock. Yeah, let's go. Like fuck off. Like I can't anymore. Do you know what I mean? My body was just like, stop. So it's hard to even say that because I remember Shannon being like, you should document it. Make sure you're documenting it. Because I wasn't. I just was so frustrated, frazzled, stressed out. And plus, living in Seattle, I had to make at least $5,000 a month to live comfortably, to pay my mortgage, to pay my all the things that you pay for as an American, right? And I looked down here and I was like, oh gosh, rent is obviously different, costs are different, but so is the connection. The community is different. The culture is different. So for me, it was like, this is my do or die. And I'll say this too. I had lost someone very dear to me in 2020. It was my cousin. And she had all these dreams, right? And we were like sisters. We had all these dreams. And in a second, I was going through her stuff, getting rid of it to goodwill, all her memories, all of her things. And I was like, you know what? What is this for? Like, my life could end next week. Why am I waiting? Why am I waiting? And I saw it with my dad dying. I saw it with multiple people dying in my life. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I want less stuff. Number one, I live in a 400 square foot apartment now versus a 1,400 square foot condo, right? I have so much less stuff. I'm more concentrated. Granted, I don't have kids and I don't have a husband here. I'm here with my dog, Disco. So I can control my environment. Like, no more psoriasis, no more asthma, no more hot flashes. No, I mean, I'm still dealing with some menopause things, weight gain and depression and other things like that. But the health network down here is possible. It's possible to find new doctors. It's possible to find new friends. It's possible to find new communities who actually support you in ways that you never actually knew you needed until you stepped out of the one that was so comfortable for you. I also say that knowing that I woke up in tears this morning because I miss the mountains and I miss the rivers and I miss, you know what I mean? That's very real too. But overall, what would I choose? And I couldn't figure out a way to do it in the States that wasn't causing physical harm anymore. I just couldn't. I could move, to the outskirts of Idaho and I'd still probably be needing to make $5,000 a month to exist. Like, I just felt a little trapped by the system. Insurance, ridiculous. Like, I was paying like $500 a month for insurance in Seattle. So I just was like, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm young. I'm 49. I have all this in front of me and it's only me that's keeping me like this. It's only me that's keeping me small. And then once I started seeing glimmers and examples, maybe like someone out there is seeing right now, these examples of women who are like, oh my gosh, like, it's actually possible. And not only possible, but there's a lot of people doing it. Like, you fall into these, communities. And the best friends that I've established literally live right next door. Like, you find these pockets of people. And I've been here a year and it's not always easy. Like, it takes a month to get Amazon down here, right? Like, we don't have like mega stores, but I don't buy as much. You know what I mean? I get by with less. And it feels better to live this way. And my body has been craving it. The sun, the sea. And if that is you, or if it's the mountains you're craving, or if it's Italy, or if it's India, or if it's Australia, like, if there's ever been a time, it's now, like, if you've ever
100%.
been. And I'll say this, that I don't know. Belize is not an easy country to move to. So I will be very honest and say that I still, I'm still waiting on my work permit, even though I've opened this business and I'm going through all these things. I'm probably 3 weeks away from achieving it, right? But it's been a year. I've been living off my savings for a year. So if you don't have, like Megan was saying, a consistency of getting income, or you have savings you can pull from or something, it becomes harder because they want to know that you can exist without impinging their resources and their culture and their people and their community systems. So to be a resident, you have to get you got to get a blood test done. You got to it's just very different. So I would also caution that, like, be prepared to enter the culture where the culture is. Don't walk in, especially if you're a white person, don't walk in and be like, my way's better. You guys suck. Do you know they have sewer systems? Do you know they even have filters? Like, it sucks, right? But it happens all the time. And you see it happening with new people. They'll walk in and they'll be like, have you guys ever thought of this? And you're like, yeah, bitch, we thought about it. We're a developing country. Like, there are things you just can't achieve. And if you're not on board with the culture, don't move there.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers. I think the beautiful thing that you said is it's possible. Like if there are people out there and they have all the doubts, and I want to go into the pros and the cons later, but it's possible. Listen to Karen. It is possible.
And there will be plenty of people around you who will say no, like who will really, want to keep you small. And one of the things that was important in me having Shannon, and we're all going to send Shannon all this business, Shannon, is that she allowed me to have those concerns and fears and move through them. So it's important that you're not doing it alone.
That's exactly why this podcast exists. So we can shine a light on things that women might be thinking about, but they're not really talking about, or maybe they're talking to the wrong people. They're talking to the people that are saying
that
no.
part.
So we'll dive into those things a little more. But Shannon, tell us a little more about you, how you got where you are. And by the way, why would you leave Grand Cayman?
Pocket coffee. Pocket coffee.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I can make this succinct. So I'm from Southern California. I moved my way up north to Northern California for college, and then I lived in Seattle for 12 years. So that's how I met Karen. And I was a drug and alcohol counselor. I was a hairstylist for 7 years. I was just kind of living. I left my ex-wife in 2003, and just like I got up there and I was like, I don't know where else I was going to go. And so I just, all of a sudden, it was 2013 and 10 years had passed. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So even with my history of drugs and alcohol when I was a kid, and then I pulled my life together and I was working as a counselor. Part of working in the hair industry and in the bar industry in my 20s got me back into using heavily. So it was 2013, and I did the thing you're not supposed to do, which is like look yourself directly in the eyes while you're wasted. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life? I was drinking alone at my house, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, you're so much better than this. Like, I had a degree in psychology, and I wanted to do all of these things. I hadn't traveled internationally since 2003. So when I was 23, I came to Italy. I stood and looked in Florence in Ponte Vecchio. I watched the sunset, and I said, I am going to live here one day. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm going to live in Italy one day. So that was my number one bucket list item. And then life just happened, right? And so I started doing lots of ecstasy and going to raves and dancing, and just like, same thing with Karen. Like, you just do the things. And like, I had the partner, I had the wife, we had the house, we had the animals, I had the car, I had the job, right? And then like, I was like, this is it? Like, this is supposed to be the rest of my life? Like, this, it felt like an itchy sweater. I was like, this is awful. And so many of those moments. And then it was like, yeah, I was working at Hard Rock Cafe. I was 32 years old, 33 years old, and part-time, like working for a drug dealer. where it was like it wasn't legal in the US back then, so we were trimming weed like illegally. I was always looking over my shoulder because it wasn't legal yet, and so I was like, this is no way to live. Like, I was in fight or flight. I had an opportunity to move to San Diego. I was going to go do hair there. I'm from Southern California. I'm from Temecula. And I was like, I didn't move away from home to go back home. And I had a job lined up there. I had a moving van planned. And yeah, I got fired from my job. I freaked out and decided to stay in Seattle for a little bit longer. Well, that just started all of this in motion of, I don't want to be here, but I don't know where I want to go. I was walking home from work at Hard Rock Cafe. I saw a friend in a bar on my way to my car, and we had some drinks, and I was like, I want to get out of here. I'm going down to San Diego. And my friend was like, hey, since you're moving down to San Diego, why don't you go visit our friend who was living in the Cayman Islands? Like, why don't you just like have a vacation and go see him and go hang out on the beach for a little bit? And I was like, yeah. So we're texting this friend. I was like, yeah, I mean, I could probably pull it off for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, well, he's like, 2 weeks? Like, that's not enough. Like, maybe go for a month. I was like, who the fuck goes on vacation for a month? So I'm talking to my friend, and he's like, well, if you're going to be here a month, why don't we just find you a job? I was like, what? I had another shot, and I was like, okay, I'm in. I had no idea where the Cayman Islands were. I had to look on my phone and like Google it. And like, if you're aware, like you have to open up your map multiple times because it's like literally this big. Like, this is the island. It's like this big on the map. I drove home and started unpacking the boxes that were going to be moved to San Diego and put it all in garage sale. And that was it. Like, but it was not without like sheer panic. And I ended up in urgent care multiple times for hives. And it was because of stress. Like, I had a histamine response to stress where my eyes were swollen. I was unrecognizable. My eyes were swollen shut. They were worried that my throat was going to close up. Yeah. And so it was like, this is like when I hear people say like, oh, it's a sign and it's a sign. And I'm like, look, it's a sign. Like, anything can be a sign if you want it to be a sign. So my brain went, oh, it's a sign that I'm not supposed to go because I don't have health care there. And then my friend was like, I mean, or it could be a sign of how bad do you want this? I was like, yeah, we're going to go with that one. I want that sign. So I was taking Benadryl. I was taking like Klonopin and Ativan to calm my nerves. I sold everything, gave a ton of shit away, packed up 3 bags and went to the island. I'd never been there before. I had no idea what I was doing. I went with the intention of never leaving, which is really technically not what you're supposed to do. But I had like a return ticket, but it was like, get on the island. Let's find you a job. I'd been a server. I had been in the restaurant industry since I was 16. And so I just got a job as a waitress on the island. And then it just like, things kept going.
Dang.
So how did you get to Italy?
Okay. So in the process, 6 months after I moved to the island, I got sober because I had also packed my drinking problem in one of the suitcases and needed to get my life together. And I was like, part of me moving to the island was I wanted a new life. I wanted to live out my wildest dreams. And like the alcohol was the common denominator of why my life kept derailing. Like, things would be going good and I would go on a binge and then shit would fall apart. And that was literally 20 years of cycling in and out of binge drinking and using. And it was not good. So I got sober. And in that process, I was focusing on yoga. I went to yoga teacher training. I taught one class and then I shattered my wrist. And that's when I started hearing about, so this was 2012 2013, October 2013 is when I got sober. And then 2015 is when I started really hearing about the coaching industry. And I was on Facebook, and it was like Danielle Laporte and Gabby Bernstein. And so I was like, how do I get paid to be on the internet? Like, how do I get paid to be on Facebook all day? Because this is rad. Like, I don't want to go into the restaurant anymore. And I went through coach training while I had my wrist I had surgery for, I shattered my wrist. So I started coach training while my hand was out of commission. And that was the beginning of everything, because now all of a sudden I had a way to make money on my own. And I left the restaurant a year later, and I had a very large settlement from my wrist as well. So that definitely cushioned, like if we're talking about logistics and stuff, right? Like I think it was like $30,000 or $40,000 that I had. So that allowed me to make very different choices. I had told my friend, hey, like this guy and I aren't doing well. If I leave him, I'm just going to go to Italy and like go to school and just like figure my life out there. And then I left him. I was like, well, I guess I need to put my money where my mouth is. So I found a school and I signed up for a year-long language school, Italian. I got a visa and left the country.
Wow.
And also not without fear, but I was like, I've done this before. I know that these fears are natural. And so what I had gone through before prepared me for like the panic, because now I was moving to a country where I didn't speak the language. And that is a whole other level of international move. Like I could ask where the bathroom was, but I didn't know where they would point me. Like I didn't understand what came after that. So my dream of living to Italy was sped up by 30 years, at least 30, 40 years, because I thought that the only way that I would be able to move here was if I was rich and retired. In my mind, I mean, in 2003, right? Like the internet didn't even really exist. It barely existed, to be honest. I remember having to go to cafes to like book rooms, but like smartphones weren't a thing. And yeah, like the internet wasn't like it is now. And so having this business is what sped that timeline up by like 30 years.
What I love about your story, Shannon, is that you felt the fear every single time and then you just freaking went for it anyway. And so I think that's an incredible takeaway. And yeah, your story is wild. You need to write a book.
This is like one of the biggest things that I talk about too, which is like, just because a dream scares the shit out of you, puts you in the hospital, makes you sick to your stomach, doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be doing it. Like you should be scared shitless moving out of the country. Like this is a big deal. And I feel like so many of us, myself included, right? Like it's been minimized of like, oh, I sold everything. And it's like so glamorous, but like the behind the scenes, it is really fucking frightening to leave everything and everyone, and your life as you know it is completely over and you are starting a brand new version, right? Like because there's different cultures, there's different norms, it's a different language. Like I mean, in Cayman they speak English, right? But like there's patois. It's because there's so many Jamaicans there, right? And so it's just like such a culture shock. And so yeah, like, oh, I sold everything, and like yes, and I was also in the hospital. I was fucking scared shitless. I was panicked about money. I questioned daily, hourly, am I ruining my life? And I was like, my friend actually said, and then I'll be done. I was like, Dan, I'm so scared about this. And he's like, look, you can go, and if you hate it or it doesn't work out, you can come back and insert yourself back into your old shitty life here in Seattle. And I guarantee you that the same people are going to be at the same bars, sitting literally at the same bar stool, and you can just come back to this life. And I was like, that sounds awful. I don't want that at all. And sure as shit, I used to do stand-up comedy. And so I went back and I visited. I was like, I know the punchline. Like they were telling the same jokes and it was like over a year. And I was like, this is insane. I'm so happy that I was just like, yeah, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that like your body's having a reaction. You got to talk yourself down. Okay, I'm done.
Love it. Love it.
Well,
All
I
right,
guess
Megan.
I would say, yeah. So I am probably for listeners who maybe are too afraid to do the full jump in and maybe can't, then I'm sort of probably the story of how to do it in stages. So our story is that, and I wish, as a Smithy, I wish I could say that this was all my idea, but it was really all my husband's idea. So my husband is an artist and he's a bit older than me, and we met sort of late in life. And one of the things I found fascinating when I first met him was that he told me when he grew up in Texas, but when he graduated from high school, instead of going right to college, he went to Puerto Rico and he lived on the beach and he surfed. And that was kind of what he did for like 6 months. And I was sort of a straight-laced kind of person who went to college and then went to work in banking. And so this sort of surfing thing was, living on the beach in Rincon was sort of a surprising thing for someone like me. And then when we were dating, he said, one of these days, I want to live somewhere warm. We live, well, now part of the time on Long Island, New York, the Hamptons. And he said, it's too cold here. It's too fucking cold. I'm from a warm place. And he said, someday I want to live someplace warm. I don't want to die in February out here, like in the miserable. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like I was working in financial services. As Shannon said, I thought I'd have to be rich and retired. Like the idea of moving someplace warm was just not in my radar at all. And we would go on trips. We got engaged in the Caribbean and he'd say, oh, maybe we could buy a place here, there. And I said to him, find me a job I can do in the Caribbean or I can do remotely and I'm in. But otherwise I was like, this is pie in the sky kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, as often happens in financial services, I got job eliminated and was looking for something new to do and really didn't want to stay in financial services. And the weekend we got married, his cousin came to the wedding and she had her own business, this online professional development business, and she offered me a job. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. Thinking, well, I'll just try this and then I can always go back to finance if I need to. And then we went on our honeymoon and we went to Nevis. And we were staying at like this really nice hotel and we had a great week and we get home and Terry says, well, maybe we could buy a house in Nevis. And he says, and now you've got this job, you're working online. So I'm like, I'm still like the skeptic. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how this is going to work. Like, we spent a week at the Four Seasons. Like, this is not real life. This is like Disney Caribbean. Like it's fake. It's fake everything tropical. So, I mean, it was lovely. But I said, this is just not real life. Like, how can we make a decision like this? So we went back.
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
So 3 months later, we went back and we spent a week and we rented a house this time and rented a car and drove around the island and went to grocery stores and just tried to get a sense of what the island was like. And we really did love it. We just had like this feeling, like we couldn't explain it. We just both felt, we hardly knew anybody. Like we'd met a couple of local people, but really we just had this feeling. So we came home and we said, okay, now we'll really look into it. And so I went online and I researched, what's in the history of hurricanes hitting the island. And Nevis has a big peak in the middle, which is a volcano. But it's, I looked it up. When is this volcano going to blow? Because we were actually not very far from Montserrat, and Montserrat did blow in 1995. It was like, no, the volcano's fine. It hasn't erupted in modern time. It's not, there's no chance of that. So I could cross that box off. And then I started looking at real estate prices, and it was a pretty wide range, but it was definitely sort of affordable. And where we live in the Hamptons, so right now at our house here, we live in a barn, and it's my husband's studio, and he's been here for 35 years, but we rent. And after we got married, we thought even buying a house in the Hamptons for an artist and someone who works in online learning, I mean, we actually live in like one of the most expensive zip codes in America. And we were like, we can't afford anything here. Like we can't even afford like the cheapest tear down house here. We would have spent all our money, on a down payment. We can't afford anything here. It's just, we can continue renting and take vacations places, but we can't buy here. But we were like, we think we could buy in Nevis. So we went down now 3 months or 4 months after this. So this is the third time in 1 year for a week. And this time we looked at property, and we had a realtor take us around, and we saw a couple of different places that we could buy outright for cash for what would have been like not even a down payment in New York. And so we came home and we saw the house that we did wind up buying. We came back to New York, and again, I was like, are we crazy? Like, we've only spent 3 weeks total on this island. We don't know anybody. It's not an island. It's not the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's another country. Yes, they speak English, but and I was like, are we crazy? But then I think it's what both Shannon and Karen said. It's like, what are we waiting for? Like, why are we found this place. We think we just have this very kind of intuition that this is going to be a good place for us. We could afford it. What's the worst thing that happens, right? We get there and we're like, this is horrible. Then we sell the house and we come back. And yet still, we didn't even still think that it was going to be a full-time thing. We'll just go down for the winters and we'll check it all out. So the first winter we went down, so then we buy the house. So a friend of ours, when we came back, and a friend of ours who's a realtor, she was like, run, don't walk. It's like you can do this, you can afford it, you can do it, and just it'll be a great quality of life for you guys. So we said, okay. So we bought the house. And the first year that we went down, we were just going to go for the winter. We were going to go for 4 months, middle of December to the end of March. And just to experience it. Like, we'd only been there for like a couple of weeks. And it was December 9th of 2019 that we went down there. And look, you all know what happened in the winter of 2020 was COVID. Mm-hmm. So now we're in Nevis and COVID has hit. And now we're like, well, now what do we do? We're like, it's a developing country that the healthcare is okay, but it's really not the place you want to be if you do get COVID. But where we live on Long Island in the beginning of COVID was having a huge, serious outbreak. So we're like, well, we don't really want to go back there because that's where it is. And there was talk of that the government was going to shut down the borders. And they closed the airports. And if you were in, you were in for an unforeseeable amount of time. And we talked to some friends of ours that we'd met down there. We have a great expat community down there, which is another story. And a bunch of us made the decision, and we just said, okay, we're going to stay. And So they closed the borders. There were a few cases of COVID, but because they closed the borders and isolated people, after a certain amount of time, when those cases had recovered, there was no more COVID. So we wound up being there for 8 months. And eventually we did have to come back to the US for business and family things. But those 8 months living down there, we were like, this is fantastic. We love living here. We thought this would just be like a winter thing. But now we're like, no, we love living here, and we can do it. And we've made friends. We've made some local connections. We live in a great place. It's hot in the summer, but not like unbearably hot. And we really, really loved it. So when we came back to the US, we kind of said, well, how can we make this more than just, part of the winter? And we were at the point now where we're basically 6 months in New York and 6 months in Nevis. But the goal is to be full-time. And that's, we come back to New York for family reasons, and for Terry, mostly for his business. He's a landscape painter. He's been painting the landscape here forever. Most of his clients are here. The gallery that represents him is here. Even for my work, I do need to be in the U.S. for a certain amount of time. So, so we come back for part of the year. But everything we do now is sort of thinking about how are we preparing ourselves for being there full time. So unlike Karen and Shannon, who jumped right in and ripped the Band-Aid off and did it, that doesn't that's not working for us right now. But everything we do, things we do for to our house in Nevis, it's to make it better for us to be living there as full-time people. Things with our jobs here, we're working towards making changes in our life and with our family here that will enable us in a couple of years to be there full-time. And we'll probably go more like 8 months there, 4 months here, 9 months there, 3 months there, until we finally can make the full-time move. But I guess, for me, I just sort of wanted to, for anyone who might listening who says, well, I don't know that I can go 100%. And it's not for everybody. We can do it because we have jobs that we can do remotely. Terry's an artist, he can paint anywhere. My job is an online job. I can do it anywhere I have Wi-Fi. We're fortunate enough to have that. But I would say, I love living there. I'll stop to let other questions, but I think there are so many ways it has made me personally more resilient. It's been both Terry and I both feel that we've faced challenges living that if we just stayed here in New York, it's just so easy to go along the way of life, the way that you're doing things. It's so easy every day, every month, every summer to do the same thing that you always did. It's not easy to leave. Even, you guys who have done it full time, you've mentioned it, and I will talk more about how hard it is to go, but it's even hard to go half-time. And I just feel that it has, like I said, it has given me so much more resilience. It has made me, I live a life down there. I live a life down there that a lot of people up here wouldn't want to live. We were talking about lack of choices, lack of, when you go to the supermarket or whatever. Life outside of America the consumerism is so much different. And so there's a lot of people here where we live that's the last thing they'd want to do is give up the luxuries of the US and go to the Caribbean and go to a very small island in the Caribbean at that. But and Terry and I both feel like it's the best thing we ever did. And we're really working towards and looking forward to the day where we're not doing this back and forth. Because that's got its own set of issues. Where is home when you're half the year here and half the year there? And that's its own sort of mental questions. I think living abroad or living anywhere outside of your country is really just gives you such a perspective on the world and makes you think about how you deal with situations and how you deal with the world in such a different light. It's really just made our lives so much richer, really.
Yeah, when Karen said that Amazon takes a month, already there's so many Americans that are like, I'm out.
Well,
Yeah, and my last Starbucks was 9/7/24. You know what I mean? I know the exact fucking date, the last
Marked
moment.
safe from.
I have a selfie of myself with my drink, like I will miss you forever. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't miss it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the second I get back, bitches, that's the first thing I'm gonna order. But like, you know, but there's just those things that you're like, I don't know how I will ever live without this, you know? And it's like, well, little by little, you start to realize that maybe it's not as important as you once thought it was.
Well, and anytime anyone's like, so what do you miss the most? Like, obviously I miss my family,
Right.
mostly. But like anytime I'll list anything, it's, oh, so you miss the consumerism. I miss Target. I wouldn't shop there
Yes.
now, but I miss
Right.
Target. I miss this. I miss these things. And it's the ease. It's like the big box stores. It's how fast you can get things, which all comes with, as we're seeing now, right? Like there's repercussions for that. And so, but it's interesting, like, oh, so what you really miss is capitalism.
It brings a feeling though, right? Like I miss walking through TJ Maxx, going to Ross, man, and being like, yeah, I need a shirt, need a little this, need a little that. Yep. Going home being like, I didn't fucking need any of this, but like I feel better now that I have this cute shirt to wear. But like, you know, it's just those things where you like, then when you are in a situation like, you know, Belize or on an island, you know, you start to look around at the way other people are living here, and it actually starts to disgust you how much you're bringing forward that is just completely unnecessary. Like, I think one of the favorite things I have here is watching Belizean children playing with each other. They will literally like give them a coconut and they're good. They don't need, and they're not complaining and bitchy and tired and irritable. And they're these wonderful little beings of light who live on ocean and coconut water. Like, they're very, very different ways of encountering each other. Community. Oh my God, community. Like maybe I would talk to the barista at Starbucks. There was one cashier at TJ Maxx who would always know me, and I'd be like, hey girl, you know, like it's my monthly roundup, you know. And like maybe in my work, right? Or I'm a DJ, so I would see people out, but I wasn't having these like conversations. Like I know that the woman who sells produce at the end of my road is dealing with her daughter being sick. And so I'll see her and be like, hey, how's it going? Like you really genuinely connect with people because you have to. Resources are so limited, but also because you want to. And then it feels like this beautiful village of support versus it just being like, I'm in my car, I do my work, I'm on my phone, and I don't talk to anybody. Like there are times I can isolate here for sure. You know, there's two guys that do car repair. There's one guy that does, you know, so you get to know each other in this beautiful new way that I can say honestly, even though I feel like I was a really good community builder in Seattle, still never felt like this. And I didn't know how much I needed to know that was still possible.
This podcast is so friggin' amazing. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm listening to you all talk just like, where else could you go and have these experiences with these other women and talk about stuff that like has changed their lives? Like, I'm just so proud to be a part of this and to bring this to listeners and give people these opportunities to have these windows in people's lives. So thank you so much for being on here. The second thing I want to say is, you know, I did what you guys were doing in a different kind of way. So my husband and I taught overseas. My husband's British. We went to Zimbabwe and India. I have children. Without like hijacking the conversation, I will say that a lot of people would look at my experiences and go, well, that was a disaster, right? In Zimbabwe, we couldn't get visas. We were 2 weeks away from being thrown in jail and or deported with 2 kids under 5. My son was brutally abused in India and it was by my husband's boss. And we had to stay for a year and deal with that. So that's a whole thing that would take a lot to dive into. But I'll tell you what, even though those horrific things happen, I'd still do it in a heartbeat. I've learned, like, there's some things I wouldn't have done, So I guess the question I want to ask is, I represent kind of a different paradigm, right? Because my husband and I are currently in the like, oh, well, I guess we'll have to do it when we retire, or like, could we just travel a lot? My situation is different. Most of the listeners know, because my eldest they're both neurodivergent, but my eldest is cognitively impaired significantly to the point where he can't really live on his own. My daughter needs services. My husband has some very severe medical issues. So kind of the thing that's been stopping me a lot is, oh my God, it took me decades to cobble together these services. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, right? But I'll tell you what, with everything going on in the world right now, even I am asking the question, is that a hard stop? Like, I don't know, it might be, but is that a hard stop?
Hey there, I'm Lisa Corachella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you guys is, for others that are in this kind of situation, and not that it was easier for you guys because you didn't have kids, because that's a load of bullshit, but for people that have some of these considerations, what would you say would be the first thing you'd recommend to do in terms of just exploring this? Like, looking back on all this, what could you have done to maybe make it, I hate to say easier on yourself, but what would you suggest people do that are like, well, maybe this is possible, like first steps? Rapid fire. Karen, go for it.
Well, first I want to say, asking people on vacation is good. Like, if you can find a local, right? I have people ask me all the time down here, like, that are visiting. They're like, you live here? Your tan looks odd for someone as white as you are. Like, what do you must live here? So ask people, if you're on vacation and you're somewhere, like, ask locals and be like, what's it like here? What happens when you get an emergency, a physical emergency? Who are there ambulances? Like, we have maybe 2 here, right? But the closest hospital, like true hospital to me, is about 2.5 hours away. No vet services, stuff like that. So it's like, you kind of have to decide based on what your health issues to be and how comfortable you need to be with a quick out, right? But I also will say this, having recently just told you that I no longer have asthma, I no longer have psoriasis, and my heart rate is down, my cholesterol numbers are better, my vitamin D levels are off the charts. Like, so what you may believe, and I say this with love because my mom is feeling this too, and I know that medical issues are very, very real, and the fear of not having appropriate care is very, very real. However, you may not recognize how many of those issues you're experiencing are because you're in the matrix, and because you're taking the preservatives in the water, and you're consuming fast foods, and they're consuming the foods at the schools that aren't healthy, and the shootings and the politics and all of the stress. I have the luxury of stepping back and deciding when I want to dip my toe into that world and when I don't, because I live here. And of course, all my loved ones are, in the majority in the States, but I have a feeling that there are a lot of people who, if they really truly lived in their alignment for what they want, how they want to feel every day, where they want their kids to grow up and experience, like, if they stepped into that fully, I wonder, as a scientist, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, as a botanist, as a person who literally supports people like this for a living, I have a feeling, and looking at my own experience and others who are here as well as expats who've unplugged, you just never know what it could look like. And I'll say one more thing before I pass it off. When I moved down here, I had just had a pap smear that was suspicious. And I was leaving the States in 3 days. And my doctor was like, oh no, your pap is cloudy. You need to come back. And I was like, duh, fuck. Like, are there holy shit. Like, I didn't even really think about that, honestly. I knew my friends down here had care. That's all I knew, but I didn't look for specific doctors. I didn't ask for recommendations before moving here. So then I was in a situation, I had to have a colposcopy. I had to have a LEEP procedure in the middle of the jungle with people in hospitals that I'd never met before. You know what I'm saying? Different level of scary. I'm fine now. Everything worked out. And thank God that there are healthcare providers that were ready and able and, capable. But I will say that was really scary, very scary, because, it's outside of the insurance structure that we're taught is the only way to go. It's outside of, but then you know what? My surgery, $125 US.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was done in an atmosphere that was clean, and I trusted the woman who did it. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of biases that I was carrying that I actually didn't need to carry. And I walked in there again being like, didn't you know you should probably maybe, did you sanitize? Do you have sanitizer gloves? Like, I was being I'm fucking Karen, right? My name's Karen. Sometimes it comes forward. And I have to take that back and be like, no, actually, they've been keeping people alive here for hundreds of years. And I'm sure I'll be okay. And sort of, trust that. But I want to validate that is a concern. It is something that you should be. And I'll say this, international insurance is really expensive. Yeah. So to just be like, I'll just get on an international plan. It's like $1,200 a month, like per person. It's ridiculous. So you really have to navigate those waters for your specific family and your specific needs. And for some people down here, like we go to Merida, Mexico. Merida is a major city with millions of people. So we usually just make trips of our doctor's appointments, and you go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, you go to the pap, you get your mammogram, and you just find a new rhythm to the medical system. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or not as sufficient, but it may just feel really different.
Yeah. And I will validate that. I mean, again, not to hijack things, but we found one of the world's experts in the stuff that my son was dealing with, just an 8-minute rickshaw ride away. What we were paying for all the medications that my family has to use was literally out of pocket, less than I pay for copays now. So 100% validate that. There's a whole other parallel universe out there that are like American ways of seeing things are just like what are you talking about, right? How about you, Shannon?
The first thing that came to mind was to see if there is like an expat Facebook group for the area that you want to move to. I'm in one so I live in Viareggio, which is near Lucca. I moved to Lucca first, and I lived there for 3 years. And there's multiple Facebook groups for the area. And so people come in and they join in anticipation of, hey, I'm moving there and this. So what I have seen, and then people that I've talked to as well, is just like ask the questions. Like what comes to mind is my Italian tutor. Her dad is a psychologist. And so we were talking about ADHD and autism. And she was saying how her dad doesn't believe in autism. And I was like, what do you mean doesn't believe? Like, you just like can't not believe in that. And she was like, it's not a thing here. And the testing is €2,000 for X, Y, and Z, right? And it's not covered and da, 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 da. So there's stuff that there's advances obviously like in the US, and I will say like Italy specifically they always say like Italy's about 20 years behind the US or, with like technology and medical stuff. And so I would say make friends in the Facebook group and learn from, like Karen said, like learn from their experience, have very specific conversations to understand what do the schools look like? Because here there are like, they're just thrown into Italian schools. Like that's it. Like watching these conversations happen in the Facebook group, and the frustrations and like what medication is available and what services are available and what they do and don't believe in. What has been difficult is because it's like so ingrained that, talk about like indoctrination, but like the US is the best country in the world, right? It means that we have the best medical, and and it's like, tell me you've never traveled without, because that's not true. And the more that you get out of that, you realize like, oh, like Karen said, like they've been keeping people alive here. They've been doing things here. So you really have to check your prejudice and your biases and your racism and all of the indoctrination that has happened to trust doctors. Because I came to Italy too, same thing, and I had a uterine fibroma that needed surgery, and there were all of these complications with the insurance that I had through the school, and then all of my biases around like, is this doctor qualified? And I had to see a specialist. And what struck me too was the care is very different. In the US, it's like the doctor's there, there's a nurse always present, there's bedside manner. And here, it's like, okay, get undressed. Are you going to leave the room? Like, can I, like, it felt like, it always feels like a really weird one night stand where you're just like trying to put your underpants back on while they're like standing there and you're like, this is so weird. So there's so many things that you don't even know until you get here, or that you experience. Yeah, you don't know until you're in it. And then it's like, okay, I really had to talk myself down after that. because it can be very traumatizing and very activating, right? Of like my experience with male doctors. And so that experience was like maybe small t traumatizing. Like it wasn't like, but it was like, what the fuck? Like, this is not how we do it in my country. And like, that was something that I would always say, like, oh, in my country. And my ex was like, in your country, you're in fucking Italy. Like, stop saying it. And I was like, oh, I got to really check myself. And so it was a good wake up call. Like you have to really start examining what we've been told and what we believe. And you got to be willing to let go of all of that.
Really good points. And we experienced that over there for sure. Like I said, this guy was an 8-minute rickshaw ride away. Like he saved my child. Like he figured out what was going on, right? And he runs like a slum school / treatment facility that's like second to none. So there you go, right? Megan, what about you?
Well, I have a little bit of a different take on it, and I think part of what a lot of my experience is that a lot of my expat friends on Nevis are retired. I'm 57, but a lot of the people that we spend a lot of time with there are in their 60s and 70s and even in their 80s, and they're all retired. So, and also a lot of our friends, our college friends, are sort of starting to have conversations about where they and their family or themselves or whomever, where they're going to retire. And so it's different than if you're actively working in the other country. So for us in Nevis, I mean, when we were there on our honeymoon, my husband wound up in the ER, so we kind of did get an early on perspective of what the ER there is like. And he's an ex-EMT, so he really had a good critical eye of what he was seeing there, and he was actually really impressed. But if you have cancer, you have to leave. There's no chemotherapy. We recently got a CAT scan machine. We recently actually also got a mammogram machine, but we don't really have a lot of technicians who can use them or radiologists who can read the reports. So if you like I said, if you have cancer, you have to leave. If you have something big, I mean, if you have a heart attack, we don't even have a lot of defibrillators on the island. Our population is 13,000 people. So whether you're 40 and you're in fantastic health, or whether you're 80 in fantastic health, there's just certain things that the island cannot provide, no matter what. So, I mean, so for some people are like, well, I kind of don't care. Like, you know, we have friends who've sort of said, you know, my heart's not great. It's better here, as to other points. We have friends who take less heart medication when they're in Nevis because of the environment and everything. They don't need. But we've had some friends who are just like, I'm dying here. I get sick, it doesn't matter. This is where I am, and this is my place, and this is where I'm happy, and this is where my life is. But not everybody, and especially people who are considering moving, not everybody wants to say that. They want that you know, that feeling that there's a safety net. You know, so like we have medevac insurance, so that if one of us, if something like really serious happens and we need to get out of there like right away, we can. Yeah. And it's not cheap, but we're fortunate enough that we can have that. So I think healthcare is a really, really big thing for people considering to move abroad, and especially, and again, I'm not saying America's the be all end all. We all know that depending on where you go, I mean, I have a classmate who moved to Portugal, and he's got great healthcare over there. So my perspective is the perspective of someone in the Caribbean or a developing country that might not have, you know, sort of the same healthcare as Italy or, you know, other places. But so that's I think that's a real thing. But I think everybody's comfort level with the care is different, like I said. The other thing that I think, if we hadn't bought the house in Nevis, we did still want to be in the Caribbean. And the other thing I think I would have done was look at islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands, because it is, being outside of the U.S., sometimes it's a great feeling, especially nowadays, especially with everything going on here. Like, I mean, we think about speeding up our move their full-time timeline, like speeding it up really quick because we can't take it here. But sometimes there are benefits of staying in the country, going outside of the country. I mean, we learned that during COVID. We were only homeowners. We weren't permanent residents. We weren't citizens. And there were different privileges on the island based on, you know, there were certain things that citizens and residents could do that we just homeowners couldn't do. So we actually became permanent residents. But, you know, there is, you know, we still come through, and we still have to, we're going through immigration twice. We go through immigration when we go down there. We're going through immigration when we come home. You know, we pay a lot of customs on, when Amazon does show up, I'm paying a lot of customs and VAT charges that we don't pay in the US. So I'm just sort of talking for people who might be thinking of doing this in retirement, and all the factors you have to think of. I personally don't mind being outside of the US, but it's an added level of sort of administrative, you know, detail that you have to think about when you come back to the US, when you go back to the country where you are. So again, those are just I think the kinds of things you have to keep in mind. Am I okay living outside? I mean, a lot of expats leave because they want to leave the US, but I mean, we didn't. We moved to Nevis not because we were trying to escape the US. We moved to Nevis because we fell in love with Nevis. And that's where we decided where we wanted to be and where we wanted to retire. So ours is not sort of like, we got to get out of here, although it sort of is now. But it was really more like, we really love this place, and we're really, really happy living here, and we want to be here. And we're healthier here, and our lives feel better here, and we're living more full lives here. So, you know, that's why we chose it. But so I think there's so many factors that for people to take into consideration. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes you just have to go with your gut and your intuition when you're moving someplace. And whether it's scary, like for Shannon, or, you know, for us, we're doing it very cautiously and slowly, but we still always felt like this is where we're supposed to be. And this is at this time in our life. So go with your gut.
You guys,
Boom.
this has been the most fabulous conversation, but I have to let you know, listeners, we have a whole list of questions that we haven't even gotten
even
into. So
scratch.
we are going to have
Notes.
this panel back
Exactly.
because we need to know some details. We need to know the logistics. We need to know the financial things. We need to know the legal things. We need to know the social things. We need to know all the things. But I hope, listeners, this episode has inspired you like it has me. And I can't wait to have you guys back and talk about it again. But if we could do just one quick down and dirty takeaway, like super short, no explanation needed. What is one thing you want listeners to walk away from this episode with? Karen, go.
I mean, life is short. Take the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
What else needs
Shannon?
to be said, really?
Just because a decision scares the shit out of you doesn't mean it's the wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can, I think you can be stronger for taking on new challenges and going outside of your comfort zone to live someplace different. I think it makes you personally stronger and happier and more resilient to go outside your boundaries like that.
Yeah, and I can echo that. I mean, despite everything that we went through with my kids, you know, the impact of what these horrible things are and still, I mean, were and are still in my family and what the repercussions were, I echo all of that, even with what I'm still dealing with in terms of what happened to my kids and my husband over there. So, God, it seems a little like to say like, comment, share, join the pod squad, but please do. And I would just like, particularly in this episode, because we will be having these fantastic women back, send us questions, you guys. Like, join the pod squad, hit reply, ask us a question, right? We really want to be responsive. And yeah, that whole list of questions, like we're not above like throwing that out the window and asking some more that you guys want to know. So my gosh, Karen and Shannon and Megan, thank you so much. This has been just such a shot of energy. Like I'm going to be percolating on this for quite some time. We will be stalking you to have you back. Just saying at this point. Karen, is there anything you want to add, Ms. Taken?
I just want to say thank you to our lovely guests and listeners. As always, thank you for having us in your ear. We don't take that lightly. We appreciate you. We want you to share this with a sister, with a friend, with a loved one, and go take the trip. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everybody.